One night I showed up on a Saturday evening to my sister and brother-in-law who were married, and
This is before we met.
And their little one was in bed, and I came upon this scene in the living room. They had the fire in, they had the coffee table over, a little white cloth on it, a glass of wine, and they had cooked a little prime rib roast for themselves, and with candlelights. And I looked upon this scene and I said, "Oh my gosh," I said, "you're having a date night." And they said, "Yeah." So anyway, it so impressed me that I said, when I get married, we're going to be having these date nights all the time. I would tell my younger self, stop worrying. You're going to drive yourself nuts. God will bring people into your lives that will help you at times that you need that help. Sometimes we recognize it, sometimes we don't. I remember one time being at Shoppers Drug Mart and I was freaking out over something in my head, and this lady was in front of me, an elderly lady, and she turned around and she looked at me and she said, most things in life work out. And I'm there, what the heck? I couldn't believe it, like it was like God sent her to me.
Because I think the reality is that worrying uses up your time, but it doesn't really help anything. And I think now looking back, I would say I don't look back so much because regrets don't help either. You have to live where you are in the present moment and live the life that God has given to you.
It's important to remember that you are starting your own family unit, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think, each of us as individuals, we have these little traditions or these things, these habits, these things that we do, how we used to spend our time. And especially when you start having kids,
yes,
you are kind of merging two families into one and then starting something kind of new. And I think it's really important to be intentional with just recognizing that you have to put your own family first.
Yeah, that can be really challenging if your family has lots of traditions that you've always been a part of. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to miss out on those things, but it's also, you have to learn to be flexible.
A lot of times there's like this misprioritization of how we spend our time, and that's something that we had to learn through and sort of sift through.
Yeah.
In our marriage was like, so which of these things are we going to adopt as our own?
That's right.
And which what's important to us, because we ultimately got to just put our own family first.
Totally. And through the years that changes too, as you have children and life gets a little bit more busy and chaotic. Those things change, but just to be aware of what your family is going to be participating in and what takes priority.
To have a personal prayer life, to pray for your spouse every day, and to pray together. And I think, like for Chris and I, we've grown in this over the years. We weren't really good at this in the beginning of our marriage. We said certain prayers together, prayed the rosary, go to mass. But I'd say the last half that we have grown in this, and there's like a deep intimacy in praying together.
I think another thing is not to take yourself so seriously, because you're going to mess up once in a while, and
what do you mean?
No, no matter how much you think you have it put together, you're gonna mess up once in a while, and you got to be quick to say I'm sorry, and learn to laugh.
One really good thing that we have found is that get this couple over for dinner, break bread together, relax, and then deal with the problem and let them vent, but it takes time for all that to happen. So you really do need a little dinner date. And if for some reason they can't come for dinner, send a dinner and with a note, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, or you're not alone. We're here for you. We're praying for you. Something. Half the time it just means that people feel good about the fact that they have someone behind them rooting for them,
And I think the key is that word of relationship, because St. Jose Maria Escriva would have said that we can only really help others through friendship and by reaching out and knowing each other at a personal level, and then you can help people. You can't give advice to someone who doesn't want to hear it. You can't teach someone who doesn't want to learn. That's right. You can really clearly, with friendship, that's how you encourage and support and walk that mile, because you have to walk it together.
I think just by being in relationship with other people can be a help. And I don't know, the only way that I can answer the question is like the way that we have been encouraged by other couples is by just surrounding ourselves with people that we consider holier than us
Yes.
and more knowledgeable in their family life and like,
Their faith.
their faith, that they have kids that are older than us and they've
Yes.
gone through some of these struggles and can relate to stuff that maybe we're going through and have poured into our relationship.
And to have honest conversations. I feel like a lot of times people are afraid to show their hurting side or the side. We want to have this facade that everything is going so smooth in our marriage and in our lives.
The perfect
We're
children.
like, that's a lie. There's always things going on, whether it's like in your marriage conflicts or with your children that you're struggling with or work.
Yeah.
There's always something going on. And to have good relationships that you can have like honest conversations with, it's really helpful.
We were really impacted when we were raising our young family by a few mentor couples, and they would invite us over. And I mean, that's pretty daunting to have this young family come over with 7 little kids. And because not many people would invite you over because you had 7 kids. But that really impacted us, and we'd share a meal and we'd have some adult conversation. And these were couples that we saw were and are still to this day solid in their faith, have a relationship with God, and they, they held us accountable.
Date night. Our advice to every married couple at every wedding we've ever gone to: take time for each other, and you have to have that date night. Saturday night was usually our date night. When children came along, we did not eat with our children on Saturday night. Every Saturday night, they had their little dinner that we ate together, and then they would go to bed. And then we would have our date night. When they got older, they would have dinner together again, just the children. Then they'd have a movie, and then we would have our date night.
So we give time to our work, we give time to our passions, we give time to our children. You have to give time to ourselves. Of course, first and foremost, you have to give time to God. And I think as St. Paul said, we should work out our salvation with fear and trembling, which means we have to put some effort into it. We have to really work at making our lives a priority, because we were married. We were married and had a relationship before we had children. Our children are going to grow up and move away, and we're still going to be left together. So let's really build that relationship so it'll be there always.
We love spending time together.
We
Honestly,
really do.
like if I had to choose one person in the world I'd want to spend every minute with, it would totally be you.
We have a lot of fun together.
But I think that also requires effort too, and being intentional. What can we do to make it so that I'm present and that I'm not being distracted with a bunch of different phone calls or meetings or whatever, what kind of work stuff, but that I can be around. I can be dad, I can be a husband, a father. And I think that requires a bit of intentionality.
Oh, totally. It's nice too. As our kids are slowly getting older, we can sneak in a couple more date nights.
Yeah.
I feel like that's so nice too. Because for the longest time, we had 5 kids under the age of 8.
I don't even know. It was crazy.
It was a little bit of a blur. But so we weren't really able to have many date nights. But now, like if you can get a date night in, go.
And like it's great when it's spontaneous and it can happen, but also like plan it and schedule it. It's like everything else. It's like if you don't schedule to do that thing, even if it's something you're looking forward to, but like if you don't schedule, like I'm going to go to the gym in this time, or I'm going to write songs at this time on my calendar, it doesn't usually happen.
Right.
Other things will come up. And so it's kind of like anything else.
I try to work with her as much as I can on the stuff around the house. Just last Sunday, we had such beautiful weather. We put the Christmas lights up together, and cleaned up some of the leaves and just did it together. And it's some of these monotonous jobs. If you can turn it into fun and use it as a way to spend time together, it can make things a lot of fun. Because she's a lot better looking, than I am. So if I can work with somebody who's good looking, it makes time go quicker.
I know when the kids were young, we started carving out, we try to anyways, after supper, we would tell the kids, okay, mom and dad need some time. We're going to be on the couch and you guys have to go play, but it's just our time that we're going to talk. And whether it was like 10 or 15 minutes or half an hour, it was uninterrupted. They couldn't come to us unless there was like blood or it was a World War III. But I mean, we tried to really instill in our kids that we have to have time together, and just to carve out when we can, whether it's a date night or go to a movie, go for supper, but that the relationship in this house that comes first is obviously our personal relationship with God, but then it's us. We're next. It's our marriage.